Alright, updating title. This one should be slightly better, assuming it works. Yeah, it's got like that, what is the fucking style? It's not retrofuturism. Let's just go with the default name. There are 3 deaths. The first is when the body ceases to function. The second is when the body is consigned to the grave. The third is that moment sometime in the future when your name is spoken for the last time. David M. Eagleman. The phone call. An all too familiar screeching reverberates inside your brain. The noise comes in waves, the pain follows suit. You try your best to ignore both, but the mere fact you've acknowledged the awful sound means it's already won. Your phone's alarm is simply too much too loud to ignore. Defeated, your eyelids peel apart like sheets of rotting Velcro, blinking back a bad night's bleary haze. You lie in bed, awake, against your consent. Fucking mood. Detroit become David Cage? Not really. Beyond, have you seen American Arcadia? It's that, like, fucking, like, retro-futurist kind of vibe. Like, everything's, like, pastels. You'll see. The room is almost pitch black, save for the intermittent flashing of your phone's screaming screen. A rancid, if routine, stench of unwashed bedsheets bids you a bittersweet good morning. You're home, for better or worse. Mostly the latter these days. Just once, you wish you'd wake up somewhere else instead. Just once, you wish time would ask permission before racing ahead. But your phone doesn't care about what you want. The insufferable screeching drills deeper into your skull. You throw back your dirty blankets, blindly reaching for the misbegotten beast. Pick up the phone. So this is very, like, a visual adventure, choose your own kind of story novel deal. Pick up the phone. There's only one option though. The slab of thumb-smudged plastic feels comfortable in your palm. Most call the device ancient, but to you it's cozy and familiar, like an old, if outdated friend. No oversized touchscreen, no fancy graphics card for mobile games, no constant access or so G network, just a simple tool with a cute antenna that still allows you time to disconnect. You've always appreciated the old and the analog, despite the wider world. I can read. This is definitely why I've chosen this game, is because I am functionally able to read 100% for reals. I'm gonna drink some water though. You've always appreciated the old and the analog, despite the wider world's obsession with digitized progress. There's sincerity in physicality, a warmth to an object's weight. You'll cling to this relic as long as you can, sensible upgrades be damned. Old cell phone. You fiddle with the phone, desperate to stop the alarm, but no matter which button you press, the shrieking will not end. That's because this isn't your alarm at all. It's your ringtone. Squinting in the darkness, you barely make out a caller's ID. Your aunt/landlady, technically speaking. Hopefully this is just your aunt today. The woman is exhausting enough when she isn't asking for rent payments, no matter how overdue they are. Still, should you really ignore a call from one person willing to support you between jobs? You can't deal with this. Press the accept call button. They must face reality. We are conscious. We have no excuse. Static crackles as your obsolete cell phone struggles to connect. After a sharp click, you mumble a hesitant hello.
Así mi clamo.
Hey there, sweetie. Sorry for calling you out of the blue. I hope I'm not interrupting lunch. The scratchy facsimile of her bombastically condescending voice greets you on the line's other end. No mistaking your dear auntie. But what's this about lunch? You flick on a light and glance towards the microwave's LED clock display. A shameful number stares from across the room's abyss. 1:29 p.m. You wince and make up a half-baked lie, pretending to talk with your mouth full. Your aunt doesn't seem to buy it. Well, I'm sure you're very busy with job applications today, so I'll get straight to the point. Do you have any idea when you'll be able to send me last month's rent? I know money's been tight lately, but it's already the 31st. One missed payment is bad enough, but two? Shit, landlady it is. You feel yourself deflate, glancing at the tower of rejected job applications standing proud and precarious upon your messy desk. The top sheet almost grazes your modest apartment's ceiling. Your aunt suggests to print each refusal, claiming they'd make your eventual hiring all the more rewarding. You found that harder and harder to believe ever since the letters started to outnumber the dollars in your bank account. This fucking hits in the worst way.
Así mi clamo.
Sweetie, do you have some kind of estimate for me? I would really need an answer today. You have no choice. Beg for more time. Pay again. Or more time to pay again. Lie to her. Tell her everything's under control. There's no reason to lie. We get kicked out. You swallow your pride. It goes down easy. There isn't much left. For the 100,000th, millionth time, you swear to send your aunt the money the second you get a steady paycheck. Until then, there's no way you can conjure cash out of thin air. An uncomfortable silence lingers over your phone speaker. After several torturous seconds, a disappointed sigh comes through.
Tomó saca.
Sweetie, I let you rent that place to give you a second chance, not to keep enabling the shameful, do-nothing behavior of yours.
Jimena Gomi.
Honestly, I'd be more willing to forgive delays if I knew you were actually trying, but you can't expect me to believe you've been pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and giving this job hunt your all when you've got... or giving this job hunt all you've got when you've been living in a pigsty for the last year. Pigsty? You deflect the woman's accusations, blabbering in desperate denial, but as your eyes drift over the sorry state of your apartment, your ramblings soon turn to tragic silence. You've been immune to the stench for a few months now, but no amount of time will ever make you blind to the altars of wretchedness your neglect has erected. On the floor, crumpled stacks of crusty laundry litter the unmopped ground like landmines in an active war zone. At your desk, fly-swarmed styrofoam containers amalgamate themselves into awkwardly unstable modern art installations. Your largest one can only be referred to as the Leaning Tower of Takeout. In the kitchen, filthy cookware overflows from your sink, bathed in rancid dishwater. A layer of film has formed on the surface, thick as the crust of a creme brulee. And even in your fridge, the outdated contraption hums like a thermonuclear lawnmower, even though you know damn well it's not keeping anything cold. Maybe ketchup packets, if you're lucky. Pigsty or not, there's no denying that this whole unemployment business has been taking a serious toll, one that's gone on long enough for your aunt's pity to become well-deserved contempt. Well, what do you have to say for yourself? It's not your fault those stupid companies won't hire overqualified geniuses. She's right, you're scum, worse than scum. She should just evict you and get... No, never do this. This is bad. This is also bad. You're sick of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Can't someone else pull them for you? These are all bad options. There's something I read as part of classwork recently. And it's the idea that like a truly well-written character is never making a decision between right and wrong. They're making a decision between wrong and also wrong. It's just a matter of which wrong is less. This is one of those moments. This is tough, though. Because you can't be prideful in this, because that's just a declining reality. It's gross, but the other two options are more gross. You become convinced that effort is overrated and wasted. Effort is downright offensive. Why keep applying to jobs if it never amounts to anything? Why clean your room if it just gets dirty again? Your precious time would be better spent sleeping in, waiting for money to magically appear. Your aunt quite obviously does not share your optimistically apathetic philosophy. Honey, none of your efforts have been wasted because you haven't even made one yet. I mean, you show up late to every interview, you dress like a slob, and if you actually cooked once in a while instead of ordering in, you'd have enough money to buy an island nation. How is an employer supposed to trust you with keeping their business running if you can't even pretend to take responsibility for yourself? Keep choosing to be lazy, and people will keep choosing to not give you a chance. You have acquired plain old laziness. Alright, I didn't want to get read by a game today. Thanks. Fuck. You brace yourself as the woman prepares to deliver her most frequent, most frustrating spiel. You could probably repeat it word for word if you were held at gunpoint. Remember, sweetie, in our world, choices matter. The big ones and the small ones. We can't always take those decisions back, and we can't control their consequences either, which means we have to choose carefully. You, most certainly, have not been doing that. But if you have any intention of getting yourself out of this mess, you need to start making the right decisions, and soon. You hang your head and nod, gulping down your last trickle of self-respect. Hearing this speech frequently doesn't make it any easier to hear. Anywho, enough of that. The real reason I'm calling is because I might have an opportunity for you. You can tell by her inflection. This means a job opportunity. Your reaction is practically Pavlovian. You salivate at the thought of your unrelenting financial woes finally coming to an end. You grip the cell phone tighter, aching with anticipation. See, there's this problem employee at our company. He works at one of the local branches right next to where you live, but the man has a terrible attitude and is even more terrible when it comes to, well, whatever it is you think we do over there. That's ominous. You picture her limply waving her wrists in some vague dismissive pattern. More of the highly confidential stuff she can't share but brags about anyway. Not that you're entirely sure what your aunt actually does for a living to begin with. Something to do with human resources, maybe? Needless to say, we'll be laying off the little sourpuss as soon as a fitting replacement is found, but we need that replacement fast. Company has a big business deal coming up. We can't afford to be short of staff now. Luckily, I happen to know a certain someone in a dire need of a job, and the position happens to be entry level. No major qualifications needed. It even comes with a sterling letter of recommendation from yours truly. Now, this won't be an easy job. Supervisors are very strict, and anxiety has a way of following you home. But so long as you nail the interview, you're basically guaranteed stable income for as long as you need it. Smyrna Corp. Smyrna Corp. Isn't prone of random layoffs, says the person randomly laying someone off. How about it, sweetie? Shall I schedule something for you? Politely decline. You'd rather be poor than deal with a workplace like that. Welp, not really an option. Have her setting up an interview pronto. High-stress environment or not, it beats homelessness by a country mile. You agree with the offer with ravenous insistence. I feel like I need to go in and lower these bits of volume a little bit more. No one knows how to balance audio anymore. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. I don't think that actually did anything. Did I actually do anything? Lower them a little more. That can be louder, that's fine. The woman breathes out a sigh of relief and lets out a nervous laugh. Almost sounds like she's in ecstatic disbelief. Thank goodness, you have no idea what it means to hear you say that, dear. You're literally saving my life. Okay, so she's doing this not because she's trying to better your state of being, but because you're solving a problem for her. Which is the best way to create opportunities for friends and family. Isn't it? When they make it really obvious that they're not doing you a favor, you're doing them a favor, but they're gonna pretend like they're the one doing you the favor. Thank goodness. You should probably be the one telling her that, but you won't complain about receiving gratitude instead of judgment for once. Without missing a beat, your aunt hammers at her computer keyboard, drafting you an email. You clamber your way out of bed, tripping over day-old takeout and mounds of dirty underwear as you rush towards your laptop.
Moja dammi.
I booked the earliest appointment I could possibly find. You should get an email. Okay, but for real, like, out of this for a second, why the fuck do people who work in offices, like, why are they all morning people? Why are they all part of the cult of the sun, where it's like, oh hey, why don't you want to interview? Why don't we do it first thing in the fucking morning, like literally right after we open? You'll be standing outside alongside every other schmuck. But you'll have the stress of having to be there, and be there quote-unquote early to your interview, because to be early is to be on time, and to be on time is to be late. Why the fuck do they live between the hours of 6 and 9 a.m.? Can anyone, please, dear God, explain to me why? Anyway, book the earliest appointment I could possibly find. You should get an email with that time, address, and job description soon. Be sure to read everything carefully and do not be late. Mr. Burgard will skin me alive if I send him another unpunctual idiot.
Jimena Gomi.
Oh, and try to show a little gusto out there. If Mr. Burgard thinks you're lazy, he might try to fix you rather than hire you. That's... fix you. Rather than offer answers, your aunt whispers farewell.
Giacunigiata.
Good luck, sweetie. I hope you'll forgive me for this someday. Foreboding! Hey, Kaya, what's up? We're doing more demos. This is Inhuman Resources Literary Machination. As you can tell, it's a bit of a vibe. Click. The line goes deathly silent, save for a droning dial tone. You get an urge to call her back, but the ding of an invitation appearing in your inbox catches your attention first. Uh-oh. Your interview is today at 4 p.m. sharp, no less. You curse under your breath, rushing to the shower to get dressed. Your stack of rejection letters gets knocked over by your charge and scatters across the room in a whirlwind of standard-issue responses. You beg with every fiber of your being not to come home with a new failure to add on top of the pile. Chapter complete. Proceed to the waiting room. How am I doing? Today was good. You know, it was one of those days where it's like, you're waiting for one thing to happen, and it's like, oh hey, this thing that is a time-sensitive delivery will happen between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Good luck if you have anything else to do today. But, so not super productive, but other than that, it's been alright. The waiting room. The packed full city transit bus comes to a creaking stop right in front of an old building you've never seen before. Shoving your way past crowded commuters, you step onto the empty sidewalk. The vehicle roars away, fading into the misty afternoon and leaving you utterly alone. You briefly wonder if getting off here was a mistake. It's been hot out today. I feel like that's eating away at my functioning brain capacity. You review your aunt's documents, poring over the civic number, street name, and postal code, as though every character were a cipher in some secret code. By the time you finish your third revision, you're forced to concede this must be the right address. It is not remotely what you were expecting. Nestled between two gleaming skyscrapers, it's a much stranger building. There's the unnerving facade. Glazed gray brickwork and pale-veined marble unite to form a vast web of extravagant monochrome patterns. But despite all the details, the sum total still gives off a sense of cold, calculated purpose. Almost like an anarchic graffiti artists were hired to redesign a palliative care center. You know what? They really were digging for the dollar words, weren't they? Like, I love this degree of fucking obtuse, but at the same time, blue. There's a book that I read last year that kind of fits the same bill. It's a really solid novella. I think it barely scratches 100 pages, but it's called The Salt Weighs Heavy. And it is a classic combination of two stories that actually kind of reciprocate really heavily. It is a classic mermaid story, like the Dark Mermaid stories, because they are hollow beings made of sea foam, and a Frankenstein story, kind of meshed together into one. It's like, what if there was an even more fucked up follow-up to Hans Christian Andersen's fucking Little Mermaid? Like a sequel. It's really solid. It's like 106 pages. I feel like they were searching for the most multisyllabic words they could possibly find. Like, hitting like 7 to 8 degrees of going through a thesaurus. It, like, absolutely bonkers. It's great. If you can find it at your local library, get it there. I paid $20 for it because I'm stupid and it was hardcover, but it's still a novella. Anyway, the decorative windows. As you climb the front steps, a set of circular gold-tinted portholes stare down at you. They are unblinking, like the eyes of giant deep sea squids. The glass is too opaque to see through, yet you suspect someone is on the other side, watching you approach. The massive front gates. Made from half-ton hunks of glistening cast iron, the double doors have been decorated, have been decorated with an intricate bas-relief of skyscrapers swimming in fog. A bit ironic for such a stout little edifice. And the bronze door knocker. The alloy been smelted into the... Is that a fucking typo? The alloy has been smelted into the shape of a crowned king's severed head. The object looks so realistic you're scared it will be warm and wet to the touch. Unfortunately, you see no keypads, handles, or ID scanners that would allow for easier entry. The local branch of Smyrna Corp is only 4 stories tall, yet it feels impossibly imposing. It's caught between outdated aesthetics and timeless sensibilities, somehow both outrageous yet invisibly subtle, as if meant to be forgotten at a passing glance, and to haunt those whose gaze lingers. Whose gazes linger. Okay, so, like, this is the part about, like, this is a very particular type of pedantic, and I am a slightly different kind of pedantic, so I want to read this differently than what it is. These are all technically grammatically correct, but I just disagree. Which is, like, the most fucking up my own ass thing I could possibly say, but at the same time, ugh. Styles. You suspect you may be underdressed. As is customary, you waited until the very last minute to get dressed, tossing on the first thing that happened to be lying around. But judging by these weird looks you've been getting on the bus, your impromptu fashion experiment may not have resulted in the new pinnacle of professional apparel. Then again, there's only so many combinations of mustard-stained tees and sweatpants a single person can create, especially when they've deliberately not done any laundry lately. Regardless of what you've got, regardless, what you've got will have to do. The hour of your interview approaches, and you won't have cash to afford a better outfit until this job is yours. So there's a real like cyclical dichotomy when it comes to professional interview wear. That it really is just like one of the pillars that upholds the kind of... It's classist overall, but it really is also like a racist epithet to impose professionalism in a standard of clothing that requires you to have access to an inordinate amount of expendable income to actually meet that standard. Like, I can't go and get a fucking job because I can't get a pair of professional businessman comfortable slacks that fucking fit me for less than $100 goddamn dollars. And that's more than a full day's work in any regular part-time. So, if I have to pay to keep the fucking lights on, and you're convincing me that I have to spend an entire workday's worth of fucking money on pants to get the potential opportunity to sell myself to a different company, it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell for a lot of people. It's a hard sell for a lot of people who have to make decisions about what food they're buying to get to the end of the week. But yes, very, like, undertones strong. But also, we are playing from the perspective of a piece of human garbage, so if he had better clothes, he could have washed them. Reach for the knocker and bang it against the door. The bronze object booms against the iron gates even harder than your thumping heart. Moments later, something clicks and latches come undone. The doors groan themselves open, inviting you inside. You step into the building and are greeted by what seems to be a 5-star hotel's reception area. Also, I totally get not getting dressed to go to an important meeting until, like, right before, like, the last possible minute. Because, today's a great example. It's been, like, gross out all day, like, upper 80s. If my ass is gonna sweat through my fucking interview clothes and I come in smelling like shit, because BO exists, I would rather have the smallest amount of opportunity to become disheveled between the time that I leave the house and the time that I go to the interview. But again, if you're taking public transit, that's also something completely out of your control. The room is utterly massive, with high ceilings that would rival a Renaissance church's cavernous belly. Its windows let no sunshine through, and no fluorescent light bulbs fill it with their pale glare. There are just low-hanging chandeliers, an array of green-glassed banker lamps, bathing the room in burnt orange. Upholstered sofas and coffee tables dot the space like islands, forming a winding path that leads to the room's distant depths. There, a woman stands behind a desk, flanked on each side by grillage elevators. The sharp machine gun clatter of their mechanical keyboard echoes across the room. You appreciate the old and analog, but Smyrnacorp's apparent fondness is downright ridiculous. Hopefully the receptionist won't feel the same way about your subpar outfit. Adjust your crappy clothes, meekly approach. Pretend to be confident. Stride over like you own the place. Confidence is key. But making sure you aren't disheveled is important, and being respectful of what is clearly a place of fucking hard-coded lines might be better. If you actually get this job, your first paycheck will be spent on a less humiliating shirt. The dim lighting becomes dimmer and the further in you go. And thick shadows close in on you like claustrophobic walls. I feel like there needs to be more. The Oxford comma is my best friend, and honestly, I wish more people would subscribe to that line of writing. Wall-to-wall carpeting squishes under your feet, and an unfamiliar ammonia aroma assails. Okay, this is good illiteracy, but also bleh, word salad. Wall-to-wall carpeting squishes under your feet, and an unfamiliar ammonia aroma assails your flared nostrils. Whatever they use to clean this place smells strong enough to double up as a bioweapon, but still isn't enough to erase the lingering stench of cigarette smoke. The off-putting odor does suit the outdated decor, however. Except for those unsettling sculptures carved into the room's concrete support pillars, disturbing shapes that assail you from all sides, emerging from the shadows like pretentious interpretations of 21st century demons. On your left, headless nude bodies are contorted in pain, as veins sprout through their skin like a tree's sprawling roots. On your right, a bleak rendition of what you assumed to be Babel's Tower has been built out of steel girders, electrical wiring, and bones. That sounds metal as fuck. Up ahead, You see human skulls whose scalps have been exploded, revealing interwoven helixes of DNA strands in binary code. This sounds a little too metal to be in an HR building. What happened to good old-fashioned gargoyles? Unsettled by your surroundings, your eyes drift back to the woman working at the reception desk. There are letters engraved in the wall above her, spelling out a slogan in twinkling silver font. Memoriae perpetuitas mutatio. You don't know much about corporate branding, let alone Smyrna Corp's specific suite of services, but you're not sure how effective that cryptic slogan must be. Maybe you should have read your aunt's document more carefully. You know, instead of sleeping on the bus, wondering how long this crap would keep you from the comfort of your bed. You wave hello to the receptionist. She doesn't even flinch. Her gaze remains glazed over, wholly focused on her work. She's younger than you, first thought. Maybe 30? Likely not quite. Sickly pale, with sleep-deprived bags under her eyes, each one darker than the acrylic of her tidy black turtleneck. Her hair is knotted into a dainty bun, her fingers devoid of polish or rings. They move across her keyboard like a demented tap dancer. Wait, no, not her keyboard. Her typewriter. It's a really, really old one, made from brass, black plastic, and way too many moving parts. A relic from the 1800s that looks like it barely scraped through both world wars. And you thought your laptop was getting old. Maybe you should... She's a secretary, not a Victorian-era maid. Just say hi like a normal person. Ring it. Do not ever touch someone. The bell, do not ever touch the bell, ever. She's the secretary, not a Victorian-era maid. Just say hi like a normal person. You meant to whisper a polite greeting. Nervous has turned it into a shout. The woman's head snaps forward as though hit by... Okay, maybe hitting the bell would be a better idea. Though hit by an electric shock, she flashes you a beaming, not quite pearl-white smile.
Bunipova.
Welcome to Smyrna Corp. Do you have an appointment? This is the face of someone who has been taken over by a brain worm and is desperately shirking out, like just trying to cry out to the world for someone to do something. This is someone whose actual personality is in the sunken place. The words barely seep through the woman's gritted teeth. Her grin is her grin is so tight it hurts to watch. But there's no trace of frustration. She's the dictionary definition of too friendly, made uncomfortably manifest. Unsettled, you stumble your way through an explanation of your aunt's referral. The receptionist replies with a nod, squinting as she reads the writing on her typewriter's latest sheet. Ah, of course. We've been expecting you. I'm afraid Mr. Burgard is running a little late this afternoon. He'll need a few more minutes until he's ready to speak with you, but you're more than welcome to peruse our visitor handbooks while waiting. Visitor handbooks. She gestures to a set of nearby couches and a table chock full of company pamphlets. You're more surprised to notice someone else already sitting there. A young man with a bitter look etched into his furrowed face. Could this be another applicant for the job? Shit. Your aunt never mentioned competition, and if they turn out to be competent, you could be in real big trouble. Your bleak musings are cut short by the receptionist's unpainted nails tapping at her name tag. I'm Melissa. How the fuck do you pronounce the name? That's an A. So, Melusine. Melusine? Yeah, Melusine. Saints. What a name. What a name. Melusine. By the way, I'll call you as soon as Mr. Burgard becomes available. In the meantime, please let me know if you have any questions. With a grateful, albeit embarrassed nod, you walk away and slump into an old-fashioned sofa, Melusine's rickety typewriter clacking away once more. The couch's cushions feel quite stiff, or maybe your stress-clenched back does. Considering the ferocious stare-down you've received from the stranger seating across from you, it could well be the latter. The steady tick of a vintage clock draws your gaze. Its hands point in opposite directions. 3:42 p.m., 18 minutes left. Good thing you came early. Early is on time. Like, I hate it more than anyone, but that's just the real thing. You show up 15 minutes before, or you're late. You still have time to prepare before your interview, but probably not enough to do everything you want. You'll have to decide where to spend it carefully. Certain conversation with the urgent man. This magazine that kind of give a closer look. Let's know what the fuck we're doing. Read through those pamphlets to find more. You snatch a brochure that seems to cover the most interesting topics, hoping it'll contain some hints about your future 9 to 5. Your guide. Welcome to Smyrna Corp, your guide towards success in a post-truth future. That is the most horrifying sentence I've ever read. You're mildly disgusted by the amount of insipid buzzwords. Okay, alright, self-awareness. Alright, I see you. You're mildly disgusted by the amount of insipid buzzwords featuring on each page. The whole thing reeks of hyperbole, with a lesser whiff of self-congratulation, but at least it was somewhat informative. Plus, the company seems way more prestigious than you expected. These salaries must be pretty decent. You tuck the pamphlet back into the display and give the clock another glance. 3:51 p.m. You still have a few minutes left, maybe enough to extract information from one of the other people in the room. Melusine said she could answer a few questions. Why not take her up on the offer? Despite her extreme fatigue and even extremer stress levels, the woman definitely seemed eager to lend a hand. And what better way is there to learn about your new workplace than to ask the person paid to greet visitors? You return to the reception desk with an awkward wave, embarrassed by by disrupting the receptionist's work as soon after leaving. Yet, rather than appear annoyed, the woman looks up from her typewriter with a sigh of relief, the air seeping through her vice-tight teeth with a shrill tea kettle whistle. Oh, hello again. I take it you have a few questions for me. As disclaimer, please be advised that Smyrna Corp staff cannot disclose any confidential information to members of the public. Therefore, I'll respond to your queries to the best of my ability. There may be certain details I'm forbidden to discuss. Thank you in advance for understanding. The uneasy first impression Melusine gave you worsens with every word she speaks. Not just because she keeps talking without blinking her bloodshot eyes or unclenching her goddamn jaw. Even though the receptionist's responses seem professional and her tone is perfectly jovial, something about her speech pattern feels rigidly urgent, almost like she's reading the words off a script with a gun pressed to the back of her head, not thanking you for understanding, but begging you to. Is she scared of getting in trouble by letting something sensitive slip? Or is she trying to secretly warn you about the office's working conditions? So, what would you like to know? Use sly phrasing to squeeze out some advice about how to ace this interview. That's what it's like to work at Smart Corp and about how stressful it really is. Maybe this person isn't the right. Maybe this isn't the right person to interrogate you for info for a more reliable source. Acting like you know more than you do is always a bad idea. Let's find out how stressful Smart Corp really is. If smiling-induced lockjaw is the price to pay for working here, it may not be worth the money, no matter how badly you need it, but it could be that Melusine has a much more difficult job than you ever will. As diplomatically as possible, you ask her to describe her day-to-day tasks. You didn't think it possible, but the woman actually becomes stiffer. An anxious, muted squeal creeps out of her throat, and her teeth tighten so much you swear you hear a molar crack. Well, I'm afraid our non-disclosure policies prevent me from saying much about that particular subject, but I can say that Smyrna Corp works with clients all around the world and is dedicated to providing advanced, unorthodox human resources solutions for what management calls the post-truth era. My job involves facilitating that process by ensuring that both our products and customer services meet the highest of standards. Our number one guarantee is always quality, so it's important that I supervise recruitments and replacements as closely as possible. Your job will likely involve much the same. This is a nightmare. This is hell.
Mita Gamoko.
That's all I can tell you for now, without incurring considerable risk anyway. Seems like she's just paraphrasing the pamphlet you read, using language not meant to inform but to provide positive, propagandized publicity, all while concealing some darker, dirtier reality. Judging by the look of fear in her eyes, Melusine is practically begging you not to look at what she's hiding. That alone tells you that Smyrna Corp is very strict, and no doubt has a ton of corporate oversight. Sanctions must be enforced upon even the most minor mistakes. Much like your aunt's caginess, the receptionist's tight-lipped exhaustion is probably well warranted. But is that really enough to justify why Melusine looks so unfathomably terrified? Nothing's stopping you from asking her, or asking to know more, but getting nosy about sensitive information might, right before an interview, might jeopardize your job prospects. Thank her for being forthright, and say you look forward to working together. Never acknowledge the problem. This is not a positive response, this is the real response. Never acknowledge the problem, especially if you're trying to get hired. Acknowledge the problem after you're willing to quit. There's a good chance your curiosity could be interpreted as hostility when tensions are this high, and alienating a future coworker before you even start isn't going to help. At least that's what you thought, but instead something unexpected happens. The receptionist begins to tremble and then gently weep. Tears streak down her deathly pale cheeks, and even over her bared teeth, the perpetual smile unwilling to fracture, even as she shakes with sobs. Panicked, you take a single step back, wondering what the hell you said to set her off so suddenly, but Melusine is quick to apologize, despite being the one who cried.
Imo Giacomo.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. I'm looking forward to working with you too. You strike me as a very thoughtful and considerate person. I'm just not looking forward to the work itself. Finally, a morsel of information. Although it's not exactly an enlightening one, nor is it reassuring. What makes being a receptionist so unappealing, and why does it sound like your hiring would make that work even harder? Melusine snickers at your question without mirth or malice. Rather, she seems to deflate, lowering her defenses for perhaps the first time.
Desonesse.
I think you misunderstand. Handling the receptionist's desk isn't my full-time job. Smyrna Corp doesn't give enough visitors for that. Mr. Brigard simply assigns me here whenever we're expecting guests because of my perfect attitude and winning smile. My official job title is Quality Assurance Specialist for the Substitution Department. And as for what work over there involves... Tut, tut, tut. No spoiling the surprise, Miss Saint Sains. I have no fucking clue. That's an umlaut over an E. I'm not even gonna try. A booming voice rumbles across the reception room, and Melusine stiffens as though struck by lightning. Clenching her smile tighter than ever, her heels click together like a soldier awaiting inspection. Another click is heard behind you as the angry stranger on the couch stiffens in the same way. Their reactions make no sense until you turn to face the voice. And then you too go rigid with an awestruck shock. Standing in front of the elevators is, without exaggeration, the most massive man you've ever seen. He's taller than a fridge and twice as wide, perhaps thrice as heavy. The pure white of his immaculate dentistry contrasts with his dark skin, which reflects the room's light like a finely chiseled onyx. Beneath the perfectly tailored patterns of his elegant tweed suit, muscles shift with every breath, threatening to burst through the seams. I assume this man would be played by Terry Crews in the eventual HBO adaptation. His pale blue eyes focus on you as he speaks with a voice like velvet thunder. My humble apologies for interrupting your enthralling conversation, friend. Our dear Melusine is sometimes a little careless when it comes to discussing confidential company matters, but I'll gladly sate your curiosity in her stead during our interview. Interview, huh? This must be Mr. Brigard. Your soon-to-be boss, luck willing. The ding of an elevator is suddenly heard, and one of the grillage doors by a reception desk creaks open. The tweed behemoth sidles his way into the shaft, packing tighter than a tuna in a too small can. He beckons you to join him like a bratwurst thick with a bratwurst thick finger. Come along now. We're already behind schedule and can't afford any more delays. What's more, I frankly cannot wait to discuss your future here at Smyrna Corp. Holy shit, he thinks you have a future. That moment, Mr. Bregard's big beaming smile is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Never trust a hiring manager. They are the incarnation of lies. Thank him and slip into the elevator. It's a tight fit, but you manage to wriggle yourself into the lift by nuzzling up to your hopefully future boss. You apologize profusely for the cramped conditions, but he just laughs it off. No need to be embarrassed, happens all the time. Oh, and no need for this Mr. Bregard business either. First name basis is fine by me. Before the elevator door can snap shut, someone opens their mouth and screams. Obuya, wait! Emiliano Aguilar. The angry-looking man you were worrying about suddenly drops to his knees, hands held together in prayer. Any aura of danger that once clung to him has been dispelled by his blubbering supplication. Sir, I'm begging you, just give me another chance. I swear I'll do anything. Unpaid overtime, I'll work on weekends, I'll kiss your goddamn shoes if I have to. Please, just don't replace me. Mr. Bregard's only reply is a disappointed sigh. His bright white smile wavers, and tangible contempt taints his otherwise welcoming tone. Mr. Aguilar, you've had more second chances than I can count, and displaying such undignified desperation in front of a candidate set to take over your position is not an endearing choice. Frankly, there's nothing more I can or want to do for you, beyond offering the standard company-issued severance package. Honestly, if they're telling you they're gonna pay you to leave, take it, dog. Fuck. Oh shit. This is the problem employee your aunt was talking about. The lamb being brought to slaughter, all so you can survive on the paycheck they used to have. Part of you feels guilty, considering how desperate the stranger seems about being laid off, but another part is grateful that your predecessor seems to be such a mess. Maybe getting hired here will be easier than you first thought. Either way, Mr. Bregard's words have the effect of an ice pick through the heart. The once intimidating stranger collapses as though shot through the chest. His body ripples with hiccuping wails, his fists powerlessly pounding at the carpeted floor. Your maybe future boss clicks his tongue, more disappointment than disturbed. He turns to give Melusine a firm look and firmer orders. Miss St. Sains, please ensure our former staffer behaves until his offboarding is complete, will you? I'll attend to him once I'm done with our guest. The tired woman gives a nervous nod, rushing back to her typewriter as if nothing happened. The clacking keys are now punctuated by the tears of a grown man. Abuya thumbs a few buttons and the elevator doors finally shut. Through cracks in the grillage gates, you see the receptionist giving you a small wave, mouthing a worrisome farewell. Good luck! Before you can decide whether she was cheering you on or trying to warn you, the floor lurches downwards. Chapter complete. Proceed to the interview. Oh man, so definitely let's I'm gonna self-redeem a hydrate. I like the writing. It's dystopian. I'm concerned. Presentation is very nice. I like it so far. Like, very different style of visual novel. God, elevator music. After descending a short way, the elevator slows to a crawl, then comes to a complete stop, groaning under the combined mass of its unevenly weighted passengers. For a moment, you worry the cables have jammed. Clearing his throat, Mr. Bregard reaches over your shoulder and points to the lift's control panel. Would you do me the honor of entering our meeting room's access password? If you're going to be working here, you may as well learn how to travel across the office. Just type in a whole bunch of fucking weird-ass symbols, if you please. Oh, and no need to be too brusque about it. Precision matters more than speed with these old doodads. Alright, so weird SOS, not pi, thing, Horcrux symbol. I can scroll back up, so that's fine. Weird SOS. Pi. Doot and Doot. The interviewer chuckles as he watches you fiddle with the eclectic symbols, amused by your apparent unfamiliarity. No doubt he's used to the employees entering these combinations with routine deftness, of jaded shoppers typing their PIN numbers during credit transactions. You're still not sure why he's making you type the password in, nor why the elevator uses passwords in the first place. Wouldn't keycards be easier, or normal numbers at least? Regardless, as the last button clicks into place, the elevator resumes its descent at an increased momentum, plunging deep into the earth with its descent. I can read, I fucking promise. At an increased momentum, plunging deep into the earth with no signs of stopping. After almost 20 seconds, you wonder if it's headed to the planet's core. You'll have to beg my pardon for the sluggishness. I've petitioned to have this thing replaced, but the encryptology department refuses to let us invest in newer models. Potential security risks, or so they claim. Boogeyman hogwash, I say. An upgrade has always been long overdue. Maybe once our deal with radium finally goes through, they'll be a bit more welcoming of true progress, huh? You nod along politely, pretending to understand anything he just said. You're unsure what the display. You're unsure display looks convincing. You're unsure the display looks convincing. God, words, brain. I need caffeine. Still, by the sound of it, you'll be stuck here for quite a while. How do you kill time? Give those elevator buttons. Ask Abuya to explain his employees' unusual behavior. That's not. Don't do that. Don't ever point out that there's something wrong. You will be murdered. Just like straight up. Give those elevator buttons a closer look. Squinting at the control panel, you try making sense of the assorted icons, decorating each key, trying to intuit the twisted logic linking them together. There must be some rationale informing the design of these peculiar passcodes. Don't touch any of them, though. Unfortunately, the longer you look, the less you understand what the pi symbol and the Greek omega have to do with any of these other scribbles you've never seen before. The bout of mental gymnastics required to even attempt drawing a clear pattern gives you a nagging headache. You can at least remember... this looks like stop. Password Abuya gave you. In the end, you're so focused on decoding the secret behind Smyrnacorp's buttons, you're startled by Beauregard. I hope you're excited for this interview as I am, friend. At the risk of sounding biased, I have very high expectations for you. The woman who recommended you for this position, your aunt, I believe? She had nothing but great things to say. She told me you were one of the most energetic, hard-working, punctual people she's ever met. And an employee with such commitment to positive workplace values sounds like just the kind of addition Smyrnacorp could use right now. You answer the giant's compliment with an awkward chuckle. Internally, however, you are screaming. Why did that woman have to lie about the one thing she knows that you're terrible at, which is to say, making an effort? Was she trying to get you in trouble, or is this her way of pressuring you into getting your shit together ASAP? As you force yourself to smile through an impending panic attack, the elevator comes to a grinding halt, its grillage doors sliding open. This is such a fucking vibe. Like, holy shit. Squeeze your way out of here. It's a bit of a battle to wriggle past Abuya, though you find yourself free at the claustrophobic lift and breathing a bit easier. Mr. Beauregard follows suit, flipping a light switch to illuminate the otherwise pitch-black room. Welcome to my humble office. And so that's what this place is. An office wouldn't have been your first guess. A rectangular space before you is reminiscent of an oversized police interrogation room. The walls are painted glossy black, glistening in the sepia tones, glows of a low-hanging ceiling lamp. If it weren't for the obvious two-way mirror in the back, the room would appear infinite in size, a boundless expanse of inky shadow extending in every direction. A single desk sits at the room's center, made from a block of carved mahogany. Coffee-stained paperwork covers its surface like some madman's wallpaper, and countless colored wires sprawl across the floor as though the varnished wood had somehow sprung electrical roots. Leather chairs fit to dwarf royal thrones loom over the ends of the table, no doubt custom built to accommodate Mr. Brigard's colossal frame. The behemoth briskly motions for you to take a seat, but you sink so far into the plush leather it feels more like the seat takes you. Prying yourself out of the uncomfortable depths, your eyes turn to a sparse assortment of unusual baubles decorating the table's corners. On this side, there's an antique candlestick phone, whose mouthpiece is made to look like a large roasting bat. Roosting bat? Not a roasting bat, that's a very different kind of thing. There's an old-fashioned record player adorned with a gaudily gilded Smyrnacorp logo. Right in front of you. There's a nameplate engraved with words. Obuya Burgard, Senior Substitution Department Supervisor. And scattered all over the place, there are piles of VHS cassettes, each one labeled with tags written in Latin, Farsi, or ancient Greek. Like, is this like this is an SCP Foundation space? But then again, so are all corporate buildings. The item which perplexes you the most, however, is the old vinyl record snugly wrapped in yellow "Keep Out" tape. Mr. Burgard notes your interest with an amused arch of his brow. You wouldn't happen to be a fan of jazz, would you? I absolutely love jazz. Obuya's smile can grow no bigger, but it certainly shines brighter upon hearing your enthusiastic answer. Well then, I'm quite excited to find out what a fellow connoisseur will think of this particular gem. Carefully placing the confidential vinyl onto an old record player, Mr. Burgard lowers the needle and bids you listen. A strange, somber soundscape slowly fills... Okay, we're just gonna pause there. Whoever is the main writer, whoever is head of the writing team, loves alliteration so much. It is so distracting. I love it. I fucking love it. I'm so happy for them. But at the same time, fuck. A strange, somber soundscape slowly fills the office with a blues-inspired rhythm you can't quite compare to anything you've heard before. It's not appalling, per se, but it's perhaps a little messy, and eerie enough to make you uncomfortable. The duet voices of a man and woman muttering warbling lyrics only adds to the strangeness. You can't make out a word they're saying, except for the chorus verse. Let's call the whole thing off. Gina and Herschel Gershwin, twins, if you were wondering. Not a couple, despite all the turbulent rumors that once surrounded their odd relationship. What is it, fucking, Seven Nation Army. Fucking, White Stripes. The White Stripes of jazz. I've never met them myself, but I do know they could have been bigger than the Beatles back in the band's heyday. The biggest case of my career was making sure that they wouldn't be, and I always found it tragic that only one of their records was left intact in the world, though I also feel quite lucky to be the man who owns it. Few will ever have the privilege of hearing such avant-garde work. This is concerning. You utter a few admirative oohs and ahs, feigning interest to conceal your perplexity. What does a human resource company have to do with ruining musicians' careers? And how could Obuya be employed, let alone alive, during the birth years of rock and roll? He's not that old, is he? Black don't crack, man. Also, don't judge people by their age. Sure, that could have been 70 years ago and he looks like he's 35 at the latest, but, you know, people are people. Especially when they work for an HR firm. If they ascend high enough, they remove themselves from the timeline and become elder beasts. That's just my theory about actual HR work. This might be literal. Before you can scrutinize the man's non-existent wrinkles, he promptly clears the stray documents from his desk, making space for a repulsively familiar sheet of paper. Your loathsome fucking resume laid bare for the world to gawk at. God, you're sick of seeing that thing. Obuya interlaces his fingers, pale eyes darkening into a severe stare. You suddenly find yourself keenly aware of just how dangerous this man could be, should he choose to embrace violence over verbal repartee. Time to begin our little interview. I'll be asking you a series of questions. Some will appear rather peculiar, others rather innocuous. They may be difficult to answer at times, and you've not been made fully aware of your position, nor of Smyrna Corp's company goals. However, I still request that you provide honest and instinctive responses. Regardless of the context, they'll give us a better idea of the role you'll be assigned during your time among us. Wait, you have to ace an interview before being told what the job you're applying for? What a mess. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of the standard. You usually know what kind of job you're going into before you get there. What a mess. Either Smyrna Corp has an unintuitive hiring process, or their non-disclosure agreements are so incestuously interwoven that no one can get any work done without being strangled to death by red tape. Still, Abuya's words make one thing clear. The only way you'll get hired and earn a salary to pay the rent you owe is by acing this goddamn interview, no matter what it takes. No. Give a firm nod and reassure him you'll be earnest. Obuya chortles with satisfaction. The sound is deep and rumbling as a rock slide at the bottom of the well. Wonderful. Let's get started. Question 1. A runaway locomotive is barreling down a set of railroad tracks at an uncontrollable speed. In its path lay 5 people, tied down and unable to move. If nothing is done, the locomotive will surely crush them and their lives in an instant. You stand in a train yard next to the large lever. You know that if you pull it, the locomotive will divert its course onto a separate track. However, this will cause it to crush a different person who is also tied down to this alternate path. How do you ensure all 6 people escape the tragedy alive? Well, that's not quite where do you see yourself in 5 years shtick that you're used to. What the hell are you supposed to respond? Assuming you can operate that lever, you might also know how to remotely trigger the emergency brakes. Except this is a car on before it, like, this is not a train car, yes? I'm scrolling back in time. I scrolled a little too far. A runaway locomotive. No, it is a train car. Okay. You run fast and have deft hands. Untie everyone before the train arrives. Dodge the question by discussing other ethical conundrums and how they expose moral biases. Assume knowledge seems dangerous. Dodging the question seems worse. But it really depends on the kind of setting this is, because not revealing information seems to be just as important. Assuming you can... deconstructing a question is never what the interviewer wants you to do. They want you to make an apt and immediate decision. So the fact that we're sitting here pondering whether or not we should deconstruct the question or answer, like, confidently is in and of itself a failure of the question. This game is really well written. Assuming you can operate that lever, you might also know how to remotely trigger the emergency brakes. You're not exactly the foremost authority on train yard technological advances, but you're pretty sure conductors have developed multiple automated and manual fail-safes, specifically to prevent cartoonish catastrophes like these. If not, you have $1 million idea to pitch. That's an impressively refreshing answer, although, to be candid, many representatives in other departments would strongly disagree with your technology-based question. The Tweed behemoth gestures to the yellowing documents strewn about his desk and the baubles at its corners. All of them appear ancient enough to have been stolen from an unsuspecting museum's oldest shelves. Smyrna Corp was built upon a simple ideal, that humankind's potential must not become entrapped by progress's false promises of privacy. Efficiency is no excuse to discard anonymous practicality. Our old hat philosophies and reliance on archaic devices have kept this company on the path to success for decades, but the world is changing and we cannot remain blind to the additional insights technology can provide. After all, how can we think outside the box if we lack the tools to grasp how big the box has become, especially in our ever so chaotic digital era? You're not quite sure how to respond to that, let alone how it applies to human resources, but you still manage to stammer out some words of agreement which hopefully imply that you were thinking the same thing. Your profile has changed. Technological literacy +2. Concerning. Now, moving right along to question 2. Could you kindly rephrase your greatest flaw so it sounds like your greatest strength? Be advised, I do not want to hear any of that cowardly "I'm too much of a perfectionist" or "I'm a huge workaholic" claptrap most folk use to make themselves sound flawless. I want a proper blameworthy weakness reconfigured into a proper praiseworthy strength, understood? The behemoth leans forward, and the room's darkness looms with him, both close and around you like the walls of a solitary confinement cell, or the rope of an eager hangman's noose. Better think of something good. You browse social media during work hours, but it keeps you updated on current events. That's not something that they want from a place that is all about its fucking anonymity and corporate values and fucking, declassifieds. You spend too much time chatting with coworkers, but it helps you understand them and cooperate effectively. You often try solving problems with brawn, not brains, but you're in great shape, so it works out. That's stupid. This is bad. This is the least worst option. And it's something I also personally do. Wars waged with unmastered weapons are doomed to fail. Sun Tzu said what you think, or maybe it was a World War I general, or the hero from that kung fu movie you've watched as a teen. The point is, swapping gossip doesn't just provide drama, it reveals what your teammates are truly capable of. That, I must confess, is an exceptional response. To work at Smyrna Corp is to plunge into the very fabric of human psychology and unravel every thread on it on a daily basis. Understanding who people are, their wants, needs, aspirations, it's integral to helping them become people that they should be, and no one can achieve such understanding by working alone. Therefore, extending that same level of consideration to one's colleagues is an extremely wise initiative to augment our efficiency. Impressive stuff for a new recruit. The man gestures with theatrical flourishes as he makes the declaration, but his conviction sounds too genuine to come off as arrogant. You conceal a satisfied grin, picturing how spectacular the man's water cooler small talk must be. Your profile has changed. Social aptitude +2. Now then, onward to our final inquiry. Regarding your schooling, I would like you to... Well, if you could just explain the, goodness, how do I phrase this delicately? The behemoth's words trail into muttered mumbles, his velvet thunder voice degrading into something more akin to a bumblebee stuck in a big dog's mouth. His blue eyes dart between you and the paper's underwhelming bullet points with increasingly disgusting concern, as though finally noticing what kind of unemployable aberration has stepped into this building. It's an unfortunately common reaction for anyone who has read your CV. The singers on the record players shout a loud suggestion to just call the whole thing off. Their advice, for better or worse, goes unheeded. Well, at the risk of sounding insensitive, I truly appreciate some insight regarding your academic background. How do you believe a workplace of our nature could benefit from hiring someone with such a dubiously incompatible education? You begin sweating bullets. Big bullets. The kind of caliber robot cops must use in action movies in the 80s. Of course, it was going to come down to this. No matter how dearly you wish it were possible, you can't magically go back in time and study something more prestigious for today's job market, but you might be able to describe your weird diploma in a way that makes strikingly employable impression. Hey, welcome to being an art major. Hi, I'm an art major. I've put myself into 6 figures of debt for art major. Aren't I just dandy? This is unironically, like, it's really hitting a lot of buttons. It's really hitting a lot of buttons. Especially right now, because I desperately want to quit my job. You study computer science. Your skill with technology is old and new. You studied Ultimate Frisbee Apex of Education for... The apex of education for any teamwork-loving athletic superstar. You studied child psychology. You're good at reading people and creating emotional rapport. This is a very interesting branching path we can take. This seems concerning. This seems even more concerning, but it feels more applicable. We're gonna go with this. You studied child psychology. You're good at reading people and creating emotional rapport. You're unsure what kind of services Smyrna Corp really offers, but there's no doubt social sciences could come in handy with human resources. By honing your communication skills and providing extra insight into people's personality quirks, your schooling should prove useful in dealing with clients and coworkers. You discuss some of the intricacies of your most memorable seminars, specifically those concerning mental development and lingering infant trauma known to emerge decades later, examples of how early experiences inform otherwise incoherent attitudes among grown adults. Mr. Burgard's concern mellows into curiosity with every passing explanation. Then, as your story concludes, he regards you with outright admiration. I cannot even begin to explain how often Smyrna Corp representatives fail to consider the significance of formative experiences when it comes to mapping out an individual's psyche. Okay, he's doing that cold read thing that bosses do, and okay, so this is something fun bit for anyone who's dealing with a hiring manager. If they word for word repeat what you just said back to you, they did not understand a fucking word of it. For better or worse. Childhood memories are often overlooked, yet integral in determining the root causes of clients' wants, fears, failings, and in our most extreme cases, identifying those root causes is utterly essential to succeed. The fact that you have such a thoughtful and informed perspective before starting your first day, no less, is truly, truly incredible. Correcting human behavior is a complicated, multi-layered process, but your pre-existing awareness of that fact will be a major asset. His flattery sends swarms of butterflies fluttering around your stomach. It's been a while since you've last received such a compliment, let alone felt actual pride in yourself, as opposed to the usual undercurrent of exhausted shame. Ironically, a therapist would probably have questions for you about that. Oop. You have acquired child psychology specialization. If only it were that simple. Your profile has changed, social aptitude +2. Anywho, I believe that concludes our questionnaire for today. As for your results, the man's enormous fingers crumple your CV into a ball and toss it aside. It bounces across the wire-laden floor, disappearing into an inky corner of the abyssal room. Your chest tightens, panic swells, catastrophic scenarios and thoughts of crushing failure explode throughout your head. Obuya's beaming smile diffuses them all. To tell you the truth, this meeting of ours was nothing more than a corporate-mandated formality. Between your aunt's glowing recommendation and the fact that you showed up to our offices on such short notice, I knew from the very start I'd be wanting you on board. After this discussion, I'm pleased to announce that my hunch has been confirmed, and I am most pleased to be extending you a permanent employment offer. Concerning. He's clearly mocking your... He's clearly mocking you. Pinch yourself and awaken from this embarrassing dream. Hang on, you actually want to hire me? You've never been this close to getting employed in ages. You almost expect that the man was... you almost expect the man to reveal it was a cruel prank this whole time. Instead, Mr. Burgard chuckles, amused by your aghast reaction. I'm dead serious, friend. In fact, you didn't just meet our expectations, you exceeded them. Our exchange has revealed that you're an individual of exceptional interpersonal acuity, a smart mind with an even sharper intuition, honed by keen intelligence and earnest sympathy. I wouldn't be surprised to learn your skill at taking yourself out of trouble, or persuading folks to see things your way, regardless of where your truth may lie. Of course, you'll sometimes face scenarios where social deduction and charisma will prove insufficient, but I see a bright future for you here at Smyrna Corp. managing our most prestigious and precarious operations.
どうてさめに
So, would you deem my interpretation of your aptitudes accurate, or have I misconstrued the content of your character? I don't think that paints an accurate portrait of my skills. You're 100% on point. That's exactly the kind of person I am. If someone's complimenting you, why would you correct them? Good to know. Very good indeed. In that case, I'll nudge administration to start producing your contract. I'll unfortunately have to remain cagey about some of the details, such as workplace tasks or starting salary, until all the legal hoopla has been sorted out. But assuming you care to accept the generous starting offer... Mr. Burgard's chuckling deepens as he extends a massive hand. His blue eyes are bright with joy, his tongue hungrily running over his pure white teeth.
どうてさめに
Please allow me to informally welcome you as the newest member of Smyrna Corp. I look forward to reviewing your performance. Holy shit, it's actually happening. You're going to have a job. You're going to have money. Enough to pay rent. Keep a roof over your head. Eat food. Anything. Like, the legitimate concerns of, like, these are the two driving things that are, like, the entirety of the millennial generation is just so desperate to be able to pay their fucking bills and eat. Real poignant. Real poignant, y'all. Fight the urge to cry and shake Mr. Burgard's hand. Let a few tears flow and tell him just how grateful you are. Don't do that. Don't show emotion in the workplace. If someone's putting on this heavy a facade, you need to put on just as heavy a facade. You can trust me on this. I am an amalgamation of mimicry of personages. Both in and out of kayfabe. Fight the urge to cry and shake Mr. Burgard's hand. You cannot help but sniffle as you extend your hand, eyesight blurred by tears of sheer relief. Yet even though that weeping haze, you can still see the behemoth's grin spread like a bird's unfurling wings, more specifically those of a rapacious buzzard, driving in to snatch a rodent with razor-sharp talons. Instincts urge you to pull away, but the behemoth's pounce comes too quickly. Before you can possibly react, your entire hand is engulfed within a fist the size of a ripe cantaloupe. Ooh, shift of tone. Almost instantly, something begins feeling terribly, terribly wrong. Despite Burgard's pure white smile, it feels as though your new boss is trying to leave you crippled from the waist down. Knuckles crunch, folding in on each other, metacarpals squeak and whine, articular cartilage between them both crumble into collagen sand. But all that pain is nothing next to the sharp, stabbing agony suddenly shooting through your palm. Ow. 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 You cry out in pain, beg Burgard to let go, pry your fingers free, but the giant's grip is iron, and deaf to your complaints. If anything, he squeezes harder. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. The needlepoint pain inside your hand sinks even deeper, deep enough for you to think it might pierce the whole way through. Deep enough for you to wonder if it could somehow kill you. Your jaw unhinges, you let out a scream. Before a single sound comes through, Mr. Burgard lets you free with an innocent-sounding oops. Dearie me, was I a tad too firm there, wasn't I? Beg pardon, friend, I tend to forget my own strength sometimes. Sorry. The tweed behemoth lets out an earnestly apologetic chuckle. You force yourself to chuckle back, but the laughter takes tremendous effort. It's hard to buy his excuse, no matter how believable it may be. Panicked, you palpitate your hand and numb fingers, searching for any scars left behind by the thing that was drilling through your flesh. But there is no wound, no torn skin or deep cuts, not even mild bruising. You don't even feel the pain anymore. All you find is a single bead of bright red blood, no bigger than a pinhead. You wipe it away, frantically seeking what lurks beneath. It is warm to the touch and leaves a scarlet smear across your skin, like a painter's brush. There's no sign of where the paint has come from. No wound, no scar. There could be some swelling, but it's faint enough to make you suspect the bulge isn't really there. Maybe, just maybe it was all in your head. If there's no wound, is this someone else's blood? Investigate that swelling, no matter how paranoid it may be. If you start, like, scratching at your hand, that's gonna set him off. You risk a furtive glance at the behemoth's hand, hoping to find a clue in his skin. Before you're sure you've spotted something, a clatter interrupts you. From one of his desk drawers, Mr. Burgard withdraws a slab of metal the size of a stovetop. At first, you assume it's a tablet device, custom built to fill the Tweed Giant's fingers and resist their vice-like strength. Perhaps a turntable meant for an aspiring DJ, painted in drab colors. A closer look reveals something old and chunkier, made of gray aluminum as solid beige plastics. Blinking buttons, flickable switches, knobs, and sliders of all kinds decorate its crowded surface with a cluttered interface, too complex to grasp at a glance. Despite your fondness for outdated tech, you cannot tell what kind of machine this is, nor what its purpose is meant to serve. Your best guess is an old movie prop stolen from a studio off a sci-fi set around the 1950s, and not necessarily a good sci-fi film. Mr. Burgard bends over to grab heaping handfuls of wires off the messy floor, seemingly at random. He sorts through dozens of them at a time, plugging only a paltry few into his device's outlets. Now that pleasantries are finally done with, I suggest we proceed to the evaluation portion of our exchange. Sorry. Evaluation? What evaluation? No one told you there'd be a test, let alone one that comes after being hired. What if they find out you're actually inept? What if you came all this way and got so far and screwed everything up right at the end? Shit. Come now, no need to get so agitated. I've already agreed to hire you. It's not like I'll be terminating your employment before your first probationary milestone. The format of this evaluation will be similar to our open-ended interview questionnaire, but this time, I'll be presenting intentionally confusing scenarios that most Smyrna Corp employees might encounter during their day-to-day tasks. Your goal is to present solutions to each particular problem as you deem appropriate, regardless of how unconventional those suggestions may seem. Yet again, there are no wrong answers, but I will tally your responses to determine how much supervision you'll require during onboarding. In other words, I once more encourage honesty over making a good impression for both our sakes. The behemoth flicks a larger switch upon the instrument's dashboard. A low, droning, palpable hum fills the shadowy room. The light bulb hanging above you flickers and then goes dark, bathing the already dim room in a nigh absolute blackness. Once the device's glowing buttons reflect in the two-way mirror, providing you with any light. Shall we get started? Let's call the whole thing off. The record player begs you, over and over again. It seems to be stuck in place and skipping a few beats. Unfortunately, your body is also stuck in place, petrified in your plush chair, and your heart is skipping a few beats more. You give your sore hand a tight squeeze and hope that the throbbing will soon stop. Brace yourself and agree to begin. Mr. Burgard chuckles his teeth, so white they almost glow in the dark. You hear him whisper a single word with a deep, bassy growl. Perfect. Your new boss's bratwurst thick fingers push one of the machine's sliders to its absolute limit. The room's bassy hum increases in pitch and frequency. I'll start you off with an easy one. Let's say hypothetically that you're supervising a group of employees from a different company. They hired you to isolate the source of their decreased productivity, then remedy the issue. It does not take long for you to identify the problem. One of their staff members is extremely troublesome. The giant pauses, uttering a tisk of irritation. It seems he wasn't supposed to specify the mystery employee's gender. When he speaks again, he enunciates slowly with more careful consideration. This hypothetical individual has an undeniably inadequate productivity level. They never meet they never meet bare minimum expectations. They lack punctuality, disrespect their colleagues, browse unsavory websites with company property instead of dedicating their limited work hours to completing overdue urgent paperwork. Their misconduct is continuous and condemnable. The employee has been given multiple warnings and provided with opportunities to improve their performance. Both have either failed or been ignored. The client is contemplating firing the problematic worker, but there are concerns that becoming understaffed during an especially critical moment of the fiscal quarter could jeopardize more important deadlines. What do you think should be done to reestablish the client's baseline productivity? Okay, so we have different answers based off of our earlier responses, which is, this is how you do this. This is the good way to do this. It took you so long to find a job. Firing someone to make you sick. Give them one more chance. This person should be laid off regardless of their deadlines. They harm more than they help. Install software on their computer that limits access to non-work websites. That's a little much. Talk with this person. Understand the root of their poor behavior. Scusi. Yeah, why not actually just contact them and say, hey, you're about to be fired. Citing psychiatric principles you learned during internships, you explain the employee may be enacting forms of self-regulation to cope with stress. Severe triggering employment-based anxieties could be the reason they're lashing out. Creating a safer, more communicative workspace could prevent future incidents. This is the correct answer. It is the incorrect answer. As your nervous explanation begins delving into more technical aspects of addressing trauma, you start losing track of your own argument. However, Mr. Burgard remains very satisfied by your convoluted suggestion. I knew your studies in formative psychology would prove useful. Even our most experienced technicians could benefit from your level of consideration. If one intends to map out the architecture of a complex adult mind, one must first start the foundation set in childhood. Failing to do so only grants an incomplete picture of the person we're trying to change, and leads to flawed interpretations of necessary corrections. The fact you already take into account potential childhood trauma tells me you understand this well. Okay, but like unironically, most like problematic fucking behaviors are sourced in childhood trauma, and most fully grown adults actually never reach that state of like, if they're fucking pushing out like bad work-life balance activities, it's because of unresolved trauma. Is that the fucking workplace's responsibility to take care of? No, not necessarily. But you know, maybe asking someone why they're having such a tough time would be the place to start. But this is more insidious. Thus, I predict minimally corrective oversight will be necessary when performing your first surgical overwrite or psychological reconditioning. Jolly good stuff. The giant hums joyfully, fingers tap dancing across the buttons of his device with a series of distinctive clicks. Hang on though, did he just say you'd be performing surgery? Abuya completes his complex mechanical operation with a flourishing of flashing lights and a sequence of high-pitched beeping. The machine's noises are loud but not startling, not compared to the other sound. It's faint at first, muffled, maybe distant, subtle enough to make you wonder if it's part of the record player's tune, but the longer you listen, the more unmistakable it becomes. Someone, somewhere, is screaming. Your nails dig into the armrests of your over-large leather seat. Your eyes dart around the room, searching for the noise's source before landing on the two-way mirror and your own aghast reflection. It's coming from across the glass. You hold your breath and wait for the scream to rise up again. There is only the record player's music. Music and the white noise buzz of Burgard's machine as he hems you back to attention. If you're in need of a restroom, I can point you in the right direction. Otherwise, I'd ask you please complete this evaluation with a smidge less fidgeting. It negatively impacts our tool's acoustics, you see. It's like he didn't even hear it. Was the scream inside your head just like the pain in your hand from before? Or maybe. Massage your blood-stained palm and pretend nothing happened. You hold your tongue, unwilling to disrupt the tool's acoustics any further. Besides, the strange things have been happening ever since you set foot in this building, and everyone's been acting like it's completely normal. There's probably nothing wrong, right? Abuya flips another switch. The room's buzzing shifts into a frequency so oddly low, you feel it sending ripples through your organs. The giant gestures your way with steepled fingers, further disturbing your unsettled guts. Now, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that our problem employee has more specific shortcomings. He is utterly unwilling to cooperate with one of his coworkers. Perhaps it's a matter of a long-standing interpersonal friction originating from external sources. Maybe there's an irreconcilable difference between them in terms of moral, political, or religious beliefs. Regardless of the exact circumstances, our floundering staffer has proven themselves incompatible with playing nice with their high-performing teammate. This has resulted in a severe decline with both their productivity levels. Knowing we cannot relocate the problem employee to a new department, nor displace the high-performing partner, how do we ensure the former collaborates with the latter, despite the deeply rooted discord between them? I like that it shows you the options you don't have, and I also like how being an ultimate frisbee specialist is going to give you any kind of insight ever. I mean, I guess at the core of it, it's a team sport. Social aptitude. Principles are not learned biologically. Principles are learned, not biologically dictated. Teach them new values to better suit the workplace. Success should be rewarded and failure punished. Fire the problem employee. High performance doesn't prove innocence. Maybe the bad employee is being sabotaged. Teach them new values. That's what literally every company on the planet does. They try to instill their fucking particular flavor of Kool-Aid. Your mind drifts to extreme rehabilitation scenarios. Neo-Nazis mellowed out through exposure to inclusive media. Violent teens overcoming aggression through extended therapy. They're not quick or cheap solutions, but they do prove people can overwrite old behaviors with new compassionate values. Your boss's bright white smile twinkles with tremendous satisfaction. He tweaks his device's knobs with giddy abandon. You're absolutely right. Too often do we believe people act in certain ways by default, as though personality or upbringing are immutable entities. But psychologically speaking, not only can anyone become anything, they can be made to become anything through tactical exposure to new perspectives. Individuals are the sum of environment and in ideas they've been exposed to. Thus, adding or subtracting experiences from that human equation alters the result. Unfortunately, there are times where the only solution is to erase every belief a person holds dear, and to start over from nothing. But that's just part of the job description. We wouldn't be offering such competitive salaries if designing boutique psychological profiles were easy. Before you can ask the interviewer what the hell he means, another sound reaches your ears. It's not a person's scream this time, but neither is it a vinyl's tune or a machine's hum. Rather resembles a dull, wet, rhythmic thud. Once, twice, thrice, you hear it a little louder every time. Your eyes dart around the room looking for the noise's source. You find it staring back at you from across the two-way mirror, begging to be let out. Your mouth goes dry as it hangs open. Your finger shakes as you start to point. All that remains is silence and a message written in scarlet smears. A cry for help no one can answer. Abuya looks over his shoulder, seeing the red stain. You wait for him to react, to gasp, or even scream. All he does is harumph at it, annoyed. I really need to put more pressure on that janitor. The soundproofing in here has been unacceptable as of late. With more grouchy grumbling, he tweaks a couple of the device's knobs as if nothing happened, then noticing your aghast expression, he furrows his brow, not with concern but confusion. Is something the matter? Shake your head, you must be hallucinating. You wipe the sweat from your brow and try to control your breathing. You tell Mr. Burgard it must be the air down here and making you lightheaded. It feels like you keep seeing things. None of this can be real. It can't be. Wonderful! I'm thrilled you're willing to be so cooperative despite these distractions. Now, regarding the conclusion of our conjectural conundrum. The fucking alliteration, man. I want to have a conversation with whoever wrote this to congratulate them on being pedantic. Let's say, and I cannot stress this enough, that an aforementioned staffer is hypothetically assigned to contain a major data breach, one of the consequences that could spell disaster for their company and co-workers alike. The sensitive nature of the task requires them to exterminate or indefinitely debilitate any individuals who have witnessed this leak information, so that they become incapable of further dissemination. In this case, the informant has only been accessed by two people, the employee's spouse and that of their prepubescent offspring. Needless to say, our employee is reluctant to perform their duty and exterminate these individuals. However, if their family members remain alive, the company stands to lose everything. Furthermore, should they refuse to tie up those proverbial loose ends, you will be required to do so in their place, as outlined in your Smyrna Corp contract. In short, how do you ensure that these targets perish as intended, and that this data breach remains contained, regardless of this problematic employee's hesitation? Huh. No one should kill their family to bury company secrets. There has to be a better way. We're not allowed to have a good answer. Which is frustrating. Let's pretend that this isn't insane. You don't want to force someone to become a murderer, but you don't want to be the reason that dozens of innocent people die instead. Arguing in favor of some non-existent greater good, you blabber that you'd make the employee to kill his family no matter what. Credit where credit is due. You understand what needs to be done and are willing to do it. In terms of practical suggestions, however, your response is sorely lacking, I'm afraid. I'll have to deduct a few points for lack of foresight, and a few more for allowing moral concerns to interfere with your analysis. Most of all, however, I'm disappointed that you resort to such an obvious solution, when just moments earlier you were able to offer creative, bloodless alternatives to my locomotive conundrum. Such inconsistency reflects poorly on your ability to perform under pressure. Like, literally, I'm only allowed to have these answers. I want to go back. I want to answer the other one. Damn it. Whatever. This is what you get for being a company man. You open your mouth to protest, ready to claim the hypothetical scenario about killing a few people to save many is nothing like the trolley problem, but you don't make it very far before the weight of your hypocrisy hits you like a ton of bricks. As your head hangs low with shame, your manager's expression shifts. The strange machine before him warbles, its monitor finally displaying your evaluation's tallied results. Well, this is genuinely impressive. I had high hopes for you, but this exceeds even those anticipations by considerable leaps and bounds. Most of our employees need months, if not years, of training to properly optimize the procedures while foregoing all ethical concerns. For you to demonstrate such dedication to efficiency without need for orienteering, that tells me you're destined to accomplish great and terrible things at this company. Why, I barely had to make adjustments to your doppelganger engineering suggestions. Doppelganger? Unfazed by your panic or bafflement, Mr. Burgard reaches to a nearby candlestick phone. The mouthpiece's realistically macabre roosting bat design makes it seem like he's clutching a live pipistrel and shoving it aside to the cavern that is his giant mouth. We're done here. You can show them now. On the other end of the line, a reply is chirped. Abuya hands you the phone, motions you to listen in. His pure white smile looks wide enough to tear his cheeks out at the seams. accept the phone. You gingerly squeeze the occult antique. It takes you a few tries to figure out how the winged mammal is meant to be held, or even longer for you to hold the earpiece to your head, but by the time you figure it out, you wish you hadn't. The two-way glass at the back suddenly turns transparent, revealing the other room filled with aesthetic contradictions and logical anomalies. Your first urge is to scream, but your voice makes no sound. Perhaps your cries are deafened by whatever the fuck is going on. You stand before what seems to be a hospital operating room. Its walls are adorned with a mix of dark wood panels and mounted stag heads, bathed in sterile glow of circular fluorescent lamps. At the far back, you see the silhouettes of two surgeons toiling away behind a curtain, carving apart the skulls of their fully conscious, unsedated patients. You want to look away, but you can't even blink. There's just too much to take in. The patients themselves. They almost look like twins. Both have been tied down with belts in respective surgical tables. Both men are tan skin, furrowed brows, and bloodshot stares. Both have the tops of their heads partially concealed by curtains where the surgeon's silhouettes prod their scalps with forceps. Only one of them is screaming as though death would be a mercy. The surgeon's tools. Blood-stained aprons hang from the wooden coat racks, while stained steel surgical trays contain an assortment of gruesome devices. Bone saws, hand-crank drills, and strangely hairy bone-white bowels glisten with dark red. Your stomach gurgles upon realizing they are sliced-off tops of human skulls. There's the television hanging from the ceiling. Boxy Technicolor units have been suspended above each patient's head. Their crackling screens blast them with unrelenting montage of childhood videotape footage, warbling ECG readouts, brain scans, and news network broadcasts. Each man's eyelids are held open by metallic speculums, denying them the privilege of looking away. And the woman taking notes. She stands with her back to you, jotting down observations on a clipboard as she studies each victim's distinct reactions. Though her shoulders are shaking, she writes with a steady hand. The muffled sound of saws slicing through bone threatened to make you throw up, but instead you feel your heart sink deep into the pit of nausea and realize something truly chilling. You recognize two of the people in that room. Look more at the closely screaming patient. Though his face is warped in fear and pain, there's no mistaking that an angry stranger from the waiting room. And from across the two-way glass, he recognizes you as well. His shrieks turn into sob-choked pleas, his voice a feral shadow of coarse drawl as once was. You, please, tell them I'll change, tell them I'll do better, don't just let them replace me. Melusine, I'm begging you can't do this to me, I have a His words are cut off by gurgling spasms, his eyes rolling back into their sockets as a surgeon's silhouette behind him cuts something inside his head. Blood and brain matter splatter the curtains, hiding the worst of the scene, but sounds of squelching meat and bone still carry over the receiver. Yet it is the other calmer patient's voice that truly makes you nauseous. He doesn't look like Emiliano. He sounds like him. Exactly like him. You, please tell them I'll change. Tell them I'll do better. Just don't let them replace me. Emilio Aguilar? Question mark? The lookalike's face remains impassive even as his exposed brain is prodded at with a hand-crank drill, yet the imitation of his neighbor's blood-curdling cries is perfect. Every nuance, every pause for breath, reenacted down to the finest detail. Better than any audio recording you could ever imagine, more immaculate, a simulacra than any man or machine could possibly ever be capable of. It's so perfect, in fact, you're no longer certain which is the real Emiliano. Hey, Melusine, how was that? Am I laying the accent on too thick? Seems fine to me, but I recommend letting your voice crack once in a while. It's been known to happen when Mr. Aguilar is heavily inebriated, and considering his drinking disposition, that particular nuance will come up quite frequently. Gotcha, I'll give it another go. Hey, pal, can you give me some fresh material to rehearse? You're all a bunch of psychos, motherfucking heartless psychos. Emiliano sobs and howls himself raw, retching as the surgeon hacking his cerebellum induces full-body spasms. The other Emiliano merely clears his throat before howling much the same. You're all a bunch of psychos, motherfucking heartless psychos. How about that? Bit better? Considerably. I'll notify the post-op technicians to implant a few more speech impediment-inducing memories and apply brain damage to relative to Mr. Aguilar's alcoholism. That should iron out the last of the neurophysical kinks. The other Emiliano gives a firm thumbs up, leaning back to enjoy his lobotomy with the lackadaisical indulgence of an expert barber's scalp massage. Melusine turns to face the glass, her wide smile pulled painfully taut. She looks at you with tears and mascara streaking down her face, her grin seeming to cause more pain than either patient's cerebral surgery. Was there anything else you needed to see, Mr. Brigard? No, thank you, dear. That'll be all. Just wanted our new hire to get a better idea of the daily grind. Oh, but do let me know if we need to make any adjustments to mediatic nutrition. Will you? I'll be on standby. With a curt nod, the receptionist turns her back. You hear a click, and then a dial tone. The phone's ceaseless screaming abruptly cuts off. Across the glass, Emiliano lashes with all his might. The sound of his screeching muted once again. So, what do you think? Pretend to be calm and curious so you can figure out what the fuck is happening. You've studied childhood trauma long enough to know explosive reactions incite abusers to commit further violence. Even though it almost kills you, you keep your voice as steady as possible, expressing mild surprise and even milder confusion about the absolute nightmare unfurling before you. Mr. Brigard looks pleased as punch by your polite interest. A seismic laughter creeps up his cavernous throat as he gestures to the two Emilianos. I'm glad you're coming to this with an open mind. Most recruits get surprisingly antsy at this stage of our proceedings. What you see here is the most common and most heavily patented human resources service Smyrna Corp provides. We replace troublesome members of society with specially trained, lab-raised actors that will live more efficient lives in our target's place. And what's more, we've performed today's processes all according to your specifications. Your specifications? You had nothing to do with this. Unperturbed by your protests, Brigard motions to the silhouette. We got him to kill his family. His actor is going to kill his family. That's... I regret being callous. Unperturbed by your protest, Brigard motions to the silhouetted surgeons currently picking at both Emiliano's wet and naked craniums. First, a standard procedure we have our doppelgangers undergo is extensive surgery. This ensures that their size and appearance matches their target. However, we also perform high-precise neural excisions and hormonal dosing sessions to ensure both replacement and replacee have identical synaptic pathways. That means they'll share the same tastes, reflexes, and handicaps wherever applicable. In this case, we've altered portions of the cortex related to all those troublesome self-regulation behaviors Aguilar once used to cope with his childhood traumas. It was a wise decision of yours to address the foundational behavior based on shortcomings directly at their source. After completing his bleak announcement with the showman's tone, the giant points to the device on his desk. A myriad of cables run through the floor and worm their way through the slits in the two-way glass. A lot of performative talking. Need water. Okay. connecting the two flashing televisions hanging above the patient's faces.
どうてさめに
Next, we bombard our subjects with doctored historical information and falsified childhood memory footage to rewrite their lived experiences. This will erase the problematic attitudes and induce more desirable proclivities.
野望なキーも
This also extends to teaching the new morals and religious beliefs, which you suggested should be done to treat extreme societal cases. And while Mr. Aguilar may have had some rather distasteful political views at the core of his character, rest assured, we've replaced them with better values, which align nicely with the company's interests. With an empathetic flourish, Abuya tweaks another one of the machine's many knobs. A television screen flickers, replacing its gruesome slideshow of warfare footage with pictures of a pastoral farm. The louder Emiliano squirms and then screeches. Finally, the tweed behemoth nods to Melusine, whose eyes glance between both her patients, taking notes whenever one of them imitates the other. The two are becoming increasingly impossible to tell
野
apart.
望なキーも
Last but not least, Miss Saint Sains arguably has the most important task of all, quality assurance. You see, the procedure is human, not mechanical. Instinct trumps algorithm. When it comes to understanding people, thus it's imperative for our staffers, with an eye for social cues, to study the effects of non-sedated lobotomites, particularly during back-and-forth exchanges between target and replacement. This allows us to adjust mediatic nutrition quickly and identify overlooked flaws in body language, voice modulation, and personality. All this ensures our doppelgangers perform their jobs correctly.
野望なキーも
Therefore, her approach needs to be thorough, targeted, and precise. She cannot bluntly remind these people of a singular, oversimplified goal. People are more complex than that, and they have diverse emotions, abilities, experiences. She needs to ensure that we can change all of them to produce a believable, concealable replacement. Holy shit, he wasn't lying. You may have pulled the trigger, but you did help him load the gun. Or you may not have pulled the trigger, but you did help him load the gun. As you reel from the weight of the revelation, Abuya holds up 3 fingers. One by one, he curls them down.
不動みジャージ
Physical rewiring, psychological reconditioning, social reintegration. These are the pillars upon which Smyrna Corp substitution services are built. This is how we guarantee that the tens of thousands of doppelgangers currently deployed to the public perform exactly as they must. It's how our company has controlled the course of human civilization for years upon years, steering in whatever direction our executives deem right. And how the right people have shown up at the right times and the right places, how the wrong items or ideas have never appeared or at inopportune occasions. It's how you will help us do our job, regardless of which department you are ultimately assigned to.
のうてさめに
So, are there any further questions about your job's new responsibilities? No. Why didn't my aunt tell me about this? Because you both would have been killed, dipshit. Why the hell is Smyrna Corp doing this to people? Mr. Burgard's expression darkens with disappointment. It appears your lack of imagination offends the man. His ensuing condescension is so extreme, it prickles your skin with goose flesh, and raises your blood pressure to all new heights.
ボーネガイエ
Why do you think we do this, What reason could there be? What reason is there to do anything other than achieving control or acquiring capital? It's the only reason you agreed to this interview, isn't it? Frankly, our motives are just that simple, friend. The only difference is that Smyrna Corp seeks to control the tides of civilization itself, not to wade about in the paddling pools of those civilizations build for themselves. The tweed behemoth spreads his arms, taking up a dramatic stance. His muscular limbs cast a vast, all-consuming shadow, much like the one his company must cast over the world.
不動みジャージ
Societies, you see, are merely sets of rules, meant to control select populaces, enforced by means of moral codes and legislative threats. Histories are naught but narratives parading as objective fact, deterministically controlling the future by redefining the past. Economies are broad equations engineered to establish hierarchies and restrict freedoms indirectly. Our mission is to alter the evolution of all these entities, everywhere in the world, for the betterment of our species. This can mean overturning governments with a silent revolution, establishing or destroying businesses to reroute the flow of wealth, even altering history in the ways that force us to reinterpret the present. Okay, so I'm giving this guy like a game show host vibe, but the most horrible aspect of this is that first paragraph is not wrong. This is a monstrous way to take that, but, I mean, the greatest villains are built on something that's empathetical, aren't they? All the world's a stage, men and women nearly players, but Smyrna Corp is the playwright, casting every actor's role. Today, your role has been decided too, and if you care to keep a roof over your head, you should refrain from delivering a disappointing performance. The giant's index finger prods your chest as he speaks. Each tap is a bullet thudding against the Kevlar vest. Across the mirror, Emiliano screams as though those gunshots too. His cry is an ode to the dark future which awaits you. A future of perpetual, inescapable servitude. Posture check and hydrate. Thank you, Kai. Although I'm realizing that alerts aren't going off. That's weird. I see them in the, I see them in the stream chat, but I'm not seeing them actually pop up. I was watching some streams earlier today, and it seemed like, there were, like, multiple OBS problems happening with, like, big streamers. I guess that's happening here, too. I'm glad I was paying attention. But yeah, this is a fuck lot of reading. Opie is right. You need money. Agree to work here until you've saved enough to quit. That's not going to happen. You can't torture people, no matter how bad... Okay, well, let's be real. You're not getting out of here alive if you just say no. Though the thought of helping these monsters makes you sick, turning down the offer means you'll end up on the street. Thus, you promise Brigard to work hard and do better than Emiliano. For now. Wonderful, but be advised, you'll need to perform very well for a very long time if you intend your time with us to be temporary. After all, we've already signed our first contract, and its strictest clauses do not expire anytime soon. The man's pale eyes drift towards your hand, the one he shook that you thought was bleeding. Looking to your palm, you realize the hunch was fully justified because something did pierce it. There's a lump beneath the skin. A small, subtle, rectangular protrusion you hadn't noticed until now. Probably because it wasn't flashing, let alone making such an obnoxious sound. Welp. This, my friend, is what we referred to as a non-disclosure microchip. A brand new addition to our confidentiality policy, specially designed by our future partners at Radium Incorporated. It serves as an ID to access our offices, but also as an employee loyalty failsafe. Should you ever emit brain activity associated with treason, unauthorized divulsion of confidential data, or any such nasty business, the chip will emit a warning signal. Should the warning go unheeded, a lethal dose of bromodium-210 will be discharged, a nigh-untraceable radiotoxic isotope, capable of inducing total organ shutdown within seconds. In other words, lest you care to experience a particularly messy demise, I suggest you remain in your best behavior until you die of natural causes. You have acquired a non-disclosure microchip. Beep, 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 beep. The microchip starts bleeping faster till it matches the determined tempo of your beating heart. No telling which of the two is about to explode first. The signal is interrupted by Mr. Brigard tisk-tisking as he checks his belt-sized watch. Dearie me, seems I've lost track of time. Other appointments beckon. I'm afraid our meeting is about to end. You'd best return home and get plenty of rest. You'll need it for your onboarding. Oh, and please make an effort to be punctual, won't you? Your aunt warned me of your troublesome sleep schedule and general apathy. But we don't take kindly to those without backbone here. Either arrive on time and complete your work on schedule, or we'll produce a replacement who shall do it for you. I know it sounds scary, but just think of it as the perfect opportunity for some long overdue self-improvement. As Abuya chuckles, an elevator door screeches open behind you. The open shaft greets you like a gaping maw of a deep-sea fish. You glance between it and your manager debating which is worse, wondering if you can really leave. When the behemoth smirks and winks at you, amused by fear, you make a run for it. Your fingers mash every single button on the keypad's confusing display, hoping some combination of the keys will get you as far as possible. Eventually, the grillage gate slams shut. The floor lurches upward, and Mr. Burgard waves goodbye, squeaking the most chilling words you've heard all day.
Oh, me bad.
See you tomorrow. Beep, beep, beep. Your microchip's alarm slows to a crawl as all your hopes and dreams die a slow, whimpering death. Congratulations, you're hired. Holy shit. That is how you do a fucking visual novel. That is some fucking top tier writing. I am all about this game. The full experience of Inhuman Resources is releasing very soon. Please wishlist it on Steam if you want to see more, and you can also keep in touch with us through the Steam forums and leave feedback. See you again soon. Finnegan Motors. Well, y'all, that was a damn fine demo. Holy shit. That was crazy. I am actually going to go... I'm pretty sure I already have it wishlisted, but if you would like to check that out, that's Inhuman Resources, a literary machination. Demo is still available to download on Steam. It's very straightforward, but holy shit, that is a special kind of dark. I really like that.